All right. So we'll just talk about what is intrinsic value for those that don't know, because it's simple. And then calculating the intrinsic value, yeah, we can do that. Easy. And then we'll apply it to the charts. So intrinsic value is the actual value of an option, and it's determined by the underlying price, so the stock price, and its relationship to the strike price. And it tells you the amount of profit that you would gain, the option holder, if they were to exercise that option immediately. So what that means is if we're trading a stock and it's trading, let's say we have $10 up here, 5, 0. If the stock's trading at $10 and we have the $10 strike, its intrinsic value is 0, because what an option does is it gives you the right to 100 shares at your strike price. So if our strike price is 10 and we buy a $10 call, we have 100 shares at $10. Depending on when it expires, it's either going to be more money to get those 100 shares or less. So if it's a Friday expiration and you only have like 4 days left, maybe that $10 call is only 35 cents, because you're paying for the time to have that potential option to buy those at $10, 100 shares at $10. So when it comes to intrinsic value and why we use it for the strat, what we want to do is, since we know price actions get traded in this broadening formation, what we want to look for is, like, if this is up here at $100 and we're trading down here at 90 and we get a reversal, if that 100 strike call is trading at, let's say, $5, it's like, well, it has to go to 105 for the intrinsic value to be even. So to break even, if we paid $5 for the $100 strike call here, down here at $90, if it expires at $100, we just lost $5 a share, $500. So what we're looking for, as far as intrinsic value is concerned, is if it's going to go from 90 to 100, we want to be in the money. We want to have intrinsic value at our target price. So if we can buy the 95 strike, and let's say we can pay $1 for it, or let's say, yeah, $1 for it. So we're paying $100 for that option. If it goes to 100, now this 95 strike is intrinsically worth $5 a share, because we have 100 shares at 95, it's trading at 100. And since we know it's the broadening formation, it could go a lot further if you have time frame continuity. So when I'm looking at, for example, the Starbucks trade, on Monday when this goes 2-2 down, I'm looking at the 90 put, because if I'm expecting it to take it from here, 91.31 to 90, now that's going to be worth something, because it'll be in the money. It'll have intrinsic value. So looking at the end of the month expiration 90 put, we can go and see. You'll see here, it was trading about $1. So intrinsically, it'd have to go to 89 before the expiration for me to break even. But since it's a monthly expiration, it'll move a lot more than that, since it still has so much time on it. So by the time Starbucks reaches down into the monthly and quarterly and yearly pivots, it's already at 89. So that is now going to be a winning trade no matter what if it stays down there. Since it has so much time on it, it went from being worth $1 to being worth $2, because it's pricing in an extra $1 worth of move for the rest of the month. So what we want is, we want that in the money before expiration, and then everything after that makes you money. So OIH, for example, we mentioned here on the inside day and up at 325. We mentioned the next month, it's actually this week expiration, 340 calls, we're trading at $2.50. Why would we want to do that? Well, if we know the strat's telling us it's potentially going into 354 and 364, every dollar above 340 is worth $100 a share, since you got 100 shares. So if we can spend $250 on 1 or 2 or 5 of those options contracts, whatever it is, and then trade up into 354, each of those options is worth $1,400 a piece intrinsic at expiration. And if it does it before expiration, even better, they're worth more, because you have the theta and the time value of all that. So if we go and take a look at the OIH, you'll see this. So this inside day occurred on 3/19. If you go back, you'll see it did chop sideways a bit, 319. So around 250. Yes, there was some drawdown in there simply because it's so out of the money. And this was an add to an already open energy long position. So I'm risking their money to make more. Now you can see once it goes in the money, we get very close to doing that, it exponentially moves quicker. It hit just almost 1,000 today, which is $400 of under what we were looking for. So what I'm hoping for this week is, since we have the quarterly reversal up above 340.12, we should take this out, hopefully by the end of the week, 354.44. And those are going to be worth 1,400 intrinsic a piece, and we paid 250. So 1,400 divided by 250, it's like almost a 5x return. And we can see that simply based on inside day up, it's probably going to go past 340 and take that 350 out, since it's so green and the buyers are so aggressive. And whenever we're trading like weekly options or weekly moves, for example, Intel, if the 2-2 day occurs on a Tuesday on Intel and the magnitude's down here at 40.6, and you're trading weekly options, when that 2-2 day occurred, what can we do? We can use like the 43, because if it goes to 40.6, 43 to 40.6, you'd be about $2.40 in the money, and you'd have the right to those shares at 43. So if we take a look at those, you'll see this. They open, and if you traded the 2-2 day, 40 cents. Those went to $2 because of how cheap they were. Because if you're paying 40 cents, it has to go to 42.60 for you to break even. But if we look at Intel, we know the magnitude of that is way bigger. So since we can gauge magnitude and where it's going, you can pick out the fact that that's way, way cheap compared to anything else. And this is also how you can differentiate between setups you want to take and setups you don't. Because if you have a lot of volatility priced into those options, let's say those 43 puts were trading at $2 a piece. It's like, well, the break even's 41. So if it goes 43 to 41, it'll be worth more, yeah, because the price is going down in your direction quickly. But your intrinsic value, if you're going to hold that to Friday, not much. And since we want to create winning positions, we want to have all that intrinsic value. And the best example I can give you of this was a NEO trade we did a long while ago. We called out 1,000%er, and that was the expectation. And Sarah knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, so right here. So NEO, for those who wonder what do cheap options look like, you can see on the weekly, the magnitude of the 2-2 RevStrat month, and it looks like I didn't have the weekly up here, but the weekly I believe was an inside bar. So the magnitude of the inside week down into the month is 34.9. Or no, it is the week. So yeah, 2-2 week, 34.9. And the trigger is at 40.44. So what we're pointing out here is the 37, I said call, I meant to say put, you can see. I meant to say puts, so that was my bad. But the magnitude's 35. The 37 put is trading at 20 cents. So if we go to 35, that 37 put is worth $2 a piece, and you're paying 17 to maybe 20 cents. So you can see 17 cents to $2 at magnitude. And that'd be $100 to over 1,000, or 1,000 to over 11,000. This is why we want big moves, and this is also how you can pick out which ones you want to go and trade, because that's a really good trade, and you don't need much movement. It can still be a mother bar to this, but you only need from 40 to 35, and that's the magnitude. You can see right on at the beginning of the week, I believe this was a Monday or Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. So they just fall off an absolute cliff in NEO. And this was in March 23rd of 21. So this is a long while ago. Go to NEO, you'll see this. Many moons ago in 2021. Here, boom. Right under that, 40.67 takes this out, 35. So those, in fact, did go from about 20 cents to $2. And you can pick that out just looking at your magnitude and looking at intrinsic value. And these went much further than $2. They're worth, I think, like $2.80 or almost $3 at the lows here. So intrinsic value is not going to give you the specific price of the option, but it's going to tell you how cheap is that option actually. So that is that, and that should hopefully give you guys a great insight into how we pick our options and how we want to think about it. Personally, I used to pick out the options and then make big lists and go through I'd go through probably 200 charts a night, picking out the options and whittling them down to the cheapest options we can find with the best magnitude, which is a lot of work. So I don't quite do that as often anymore. I normally go closer to the money, but when I have the chance and when I see it, that's how I'm going to be picking my options. And that's where, if I ever mention any options, that's why, because they have really good intrinsic value to current price.